Three, two, one. Here we go. Hello, hello. Welcome to the Gonzo Experience. I am David Gonzo Mamano here for another great episode of the Gonzo Experience. Every Wednesday morning for, 6 years, I've been bringing you what I think are great interviews. Not because of me, just because I have an immense talent at getting like incredible guests. And today is no exception. Today I have on the show a new friend, a funny friend who is mixing business and comedy. Sound familiar? And we are, I think we became kindred spirits from like day one. So I feel that way. Maybe she doesn't, but I feel that way. So Jenn Lederer, welcome to the Gonzo Experience.
Thank you, David. I feel the same. Let's just let the pressure off from the beginning.
I love it. Oh, I could just be myself. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, not too much of yourself.
Yes, we don't want too
Just
much.
enough.
We don't want to make the internet just, get paralyzed. So thank you for that. Yes.
Gonzo was my favorite Muppet.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah. So Gonzo comes from, it was my fraternity name in college, went to University of Buffalo, and I was a Sammy Sigma Alpha Mu. And
Okay.
apparently they thought I looked like Gonzo the Muppet back in the day. And therefore there's my nickname. Yes, yes. My profile, if you've seen it,
Yes.
let's just say I don't have a small nose. And apparently they thought I represented Gonzo. So I just went with it. So
You got to embrace it. That's how you take the power back, right?
listen, my nose has a lot of character, right? A lot. So I'll take it.
He leads with his character, you know?
I win by a nose every time, baby. So, and then, well, in the show, Saved by the Bell came out
okay.
the year.
Let's travel back, everyone.
Yeah, a little back in time to the 80s. But Saved by the Bell came out the year I was going to college. So I was already in the fraternity.
Okay.
And otherwise, I am sure my name would have been Screech because I was a dead ringer for Screech in high school.
You
so
really were.
I
You
really
sent me
was.
a photo.
Yeah. No, I'm like, people are calling me like, you got to watch this show. You're on it. And I'm like, whatever. Then I saw it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm Screech.
Nailed it.
Yeah. So, but anyway, enough about my nicknames, and let's get to you.
All right.
So, Jenn, you have a great bio. I'm not going to read it like word for word, but because I want you to really tell us about yourself. But you have a great journey so far, and I'm saying so far because you're still very young and still probably like feel like you're just getting started. But in New York City, you had some great adventures, and let's talk about that. And then also, then you in 2018 or 19, I believe you said you became a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
And then decided to say, you know what, there's still going to do that, but also, helping people and, in businesses, kind of mix those two together for some great results. So we want to talk about how you do that too. So I love it. That's when, and I want to also, Steve Nudelberg, who introduced us, and he was my podcast about 2 years ago. Thank you for the introduction, Steve. And Steve had called me. He goes, for those of you that know me, about a year ago, I did a stand-up comedy performance that I called it Putting Funny Back in Business. And the tagline was, it's like Tony Robbins and Jerry Seinfeld had a baby named Dave. And it was all because in my 20s, I was a stand-up comedian. And then I started a business. And, during COVID, we start thinking a little bit, what can we do that's creative as we come out of COVID? And I thought, let me put together a routine that kind of mixes those two. Loved it. Was like the best hour of my life. From I was just, when you're in your zone of like, oh, it's the best thing ever.
Best.
So Steve said, I have someone who you are going to love because she's taking what you're doing and bringing it like on steroids. So, so that's how we met.
Shout out to Steve. Yeah, it's a really good match for sure.
Yeah. So thank you, Steve. But enough about me talking here. Give us your journey. Give us your story from the start and what you're doing today to help people.
From the start.
From the start.
All right. We bleed black and gold around here. All right. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I do not care about sports at all, but there is no choice. When you are from Steel Town, you bleed black and gold. And also all through elementary, all the way through high school, my school was the Tigers. So even in my high school world, everything was black and gold. So just my entire world is that. And I will say that I never want to live in Pittsburgh again. But I know that what that upbringing gave me of being grounded, being connected to the real world, let's say, even as big as I can dream, as much as I believe in the magic of life, I've also never been allowed to get my feet off the ground for very long. Like people bring me back down and stay grounded. And that's been like through the journey that we're going to talk about, that has been a really core part of who I am. And I know that comes from where I come from. But when I was 5-ish, I started declaring, I'm moving to New York City and I'm taking over the world. I'm moving to New York City and I'm taking over the world.
I can make it there. I can make it anywhere.
This is what they say. So let me test this theory for everyone to get back to you. And my dad would be like, all right. Well, what are you going to do? And I was like, details, Dad. Like I told you, I'm moving to New York City.
We'll figure it out. Well, I'm 5. We'll figure it out, right?
I was always a fan of Pinky and the Brain. It's like, what are we going to do today, Brain? Try and take over the world.
Yeah.
So when I decided to go to college for dance, one of the reasons I decided, well, number one, it was like the thing that I was good at, and I couldn't imagine myself like doing anything else, but it was also a clear road to New York. Like if I have a business degree, what's my excuse for going there? Of course, there's plenty of business in New York City, but I wasn't seeing it as that. I was seeing it as the Great White Way, which is Broadway. And that's what I wanted to do. So I earned my degree in dance, and that's what brought me to New York, along with like a gaggle of the people that I graduated with. We came in, and I continue to meet people from Pittsburgh in New York City. I mean, people from Pittsburgh are kind of everywhere. Same with Steelers fans, like where you can't get away from us. But that was a lesson I learned when I lived in New York. When I was 19, I did a dance internship at Broadway Dance Center. And it was an absolute shit show. I mean, I was fake ID, getting into clubs every night, obviously, getting kicked out of a lot of them. There was one night where I thought I was going to walk from the meatpacking district, if you're familiar with New York at all, to Brooklyn Heights.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
At 1 a.m., let's start this journey, baby.
Yeah.
And 2 angels, I swear to you, stopped me on the street and asked me where I was going. And the last thing I remember is giving them my address and them getting me into a cab and paying for it.
Wow. In New York City, no less. Wow. You met the 2 nicest people in New York City ever.
My guardian angels work overtime on me. I'm telling you. They're like, oh, okay, here we go. Send them down, get her in a cab.
Yeah, you have one heck of a squad, that's for sure.
Listen. And so I learned if I'm coming back to New York City, I can't come alone. And so I came with a bunch of friends. We didn't all live together, all 15 of us, but there was 5 of us in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath for the first 2 years.
That's New York.
You know, and that's New York. That's how you get here. It was very much New York or bust. The 6 months between graduating and moving to New York, I worked at Starbucks in the morning. I taught dance in the afternoon, and then I was either performing at night or rehearsing at night. I was like napping 2 or 3 hours at a time through the day. My day was like 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day.
Right. Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. You're like, oh, here's a couch. I'll take a nap.
Yeah. Honestly, just let me close my eyes for however long. I remember having a mental breakdown during that time, but it was worth it. David, I had to get to New York.
You earned a stripe.
Yeah. You know, so I could get to New York and quickly start self-sabotaging all of my dance dreams, you know, which is what I did for a couple of years. But I wrote an off-Broadway show. I co-wrote an album. I did a lot of things on the creative side while simultaneously hiding, mainly through substance abuse, and only allowing myself to become so successful, to be so seen, to commit to any one thing for any amount of time. And then I ended up getting a job as a talent manager. I was selling comedy tickets on the street. Listen, if you go to New York City and someone asks you, do you like comedy? Just be nice to those people. All right. We're human. You don't have to buy the tickets, but don't be mean. The meanest people to me were always the tourists, by the way. New Yorkers are not mean.
Yeah.
We're not rude. We're just,
I think they're empathetic. They're like, you know, this poor girl is out on the street, and let's at least, you know, say hello to her. Right. So
pity was absolutely my train of thought. Well, one of the guys
God, speaking of you selling comedy tickets on the street, let's just say that God has a sense of humor,
Okay.
knowing like, okay,
The
someday
foreshadowing.
somebody would be selling tickets for Jenn, right?
This is what that like the foreshadowing is wild. I
Yeah,
really always said I will never do stand-up comedy. It's the one thing I will never
that
do.
is such foreshadowing. It's almost five shadowing.
David, wow. Are you available to be on my writers team? This is what I need.
I only learned that one because someone said, David, you don't have a forehead, you have a five head.
And you applied that equally awesome joke.
Yes, that's how witty and creative I am. Thank you.
Nailed it. So one of the guys that I pitched while being in my pity sales zone, which really was effective, owned this talent management company, and it was going under. And he was like, listen, you're a really good saleswoman. I actually almost bought these tickets. I've never almost bought these tickets. Why are you doing this job?
Yeah.
Why don't you come work for me? And so I did that, and I ended up buying the company from the guys that were running it and ran it on my own for 5 years. And that was the master's degree that I needed to figure out the business of show, to really disconnect my value of myself personally from this machine that does not care about anyone personally. Just like any industry, like you have to understand the business that you're in and act as if it's a business, which that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's where I started doing workshops, because I couldn't represent every actor that I believed in, but I could give the information that I knew was important because I had been on that side. I've gone to the auditions. I've been in a place where I was called back. I was pinned, which means we're considering you, hold your calendar open. And then you're released and you never are told why. And so often it's because, well, they changed the family from Hispanic to Black, or the director's daughter is now that role. Like it's never really about you at the end of the day. And so helping people understand that mentality of getting back up, that's where I got into motivational speaking. And through that, people kept saying, your funny stuff is amazing. Your funny stuff is where I click in. I want more of those stories. And so I was eventually like, listen, I'm going to own this. I'm going to be a comedian and see if I can not just be sometimes funny, but really purposely funny for a whole half hour straight, or 45 minutes straight, or 5 minwell, straight, whatever amount of stage time you give me, I'm going to grab the mic and I'm going to kill it. So yeah, since 2018, that's what I've been doing.
So, well, tell us about like the first few times that you got on stage. What was that like?
Nothing about my story is the way that most comedians start. I produced my first show. I filled the room myself and I did 20 minutes. And it was great. I mean, when I look back on that set, it was definitely funny storytelling, not so much actual formulated jokes. But I had the room the whole time and I wasn't reading off of notes. I didn't drop anything that I wanted to deliver, and people were genuinely laughing. And my boyfriend, after the show, he looked at me, he goes, I think you can actually do this. I was like, well, I'm glad you were doubting me up into this point.
Thanks for validating what I validated, 6 months ago. But
you know what I'm saying? Like, but fair enough also, because there's plenty of people who say, as you know, there's a lot of people who say, I could do that. I can do stand-up comedy. I could do that. I have funny stories at parties. I'm sure you do. But getting on stage and being funny on purpose to strangers is a different vibe.
Right. Yeah. Give it a shot if you think you're good. Right. No, that's it. When I did my show, it's been about a year already. One of my best friends who had never happened to see me perform, because he never was in town when I was doing it in my 20s. He came to the show and he goes, Dave, I was really just going to come to support you and throw some laughter in there when it was like kind of dull. And he goes, but I have to say, I really laughed. I'm like, well, thank you.
Yeah, you're actually funny.
That's what he said. You were actually funny.
The backhanded compliment is amazing.
Yeah. It was coming from a good place, but it was kind of, that was funny.
For sure. But yeah, that was my first. So the place where I did that show, they gave me a 3-month residency. And they helped me fill the room. It's a place called Quarters, which is a co-living, co-working space for small business owners. So since I was coming out of business coaching and motivational speaking, I knew that the people they were bringing into the room were kind of my ideal audience anyway. I was really comfortable
Yeah.
with talking to small business owners in a funny way. So it felt like a safe bridge for me to cross into this world versus going to an open mic and performing for a room full of comedians, which is death.
Yeah.
Like I,
Right. Yeah.
there are certain stripes you have to earn by doing those open mics, and I've done them. I have
Yep.
done them. I have walked the path in order to make sure I'm doing, because my dance degree really showed me that technique matters. So when I decided that I wanted to commit to doing comedy, I did take some writing classes, some hosting classes. I've watched a million comedians, not only their specials, but seeing them live, seeing how people work a room, how people get an audience back when you've lost them, how you react to different distractions in the room, watching the people who have been on stage for 25 years and the choices they make in those moments have taught me so much.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of, being a good comedian is timing,
Yep.
delivery, tone,
Yep.
the look on your face. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
and being in the room with them, not just moving through your content as if you're watching a Netflix special. Right there. That's the difference of you. Are you in this room with me or not? Because otherwise I'll just watch your recording.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have some of those early performances, on YouTube, on your website?
I have clips of them. Yeah, it's not
All
the
right.
whole set, but yeah, you can go to YouTube and find some of my older stuff.
All right. I'm going to be doing that. So
You can watch the evolution.
the evolution. I like that. The evolution of Jenn.
Yeah.
So now in today's world, you're taking your love and talent of comedy,
Yeah.
and you're helping people in the business world be able to tell their story, be able to tell what they do, right? How many people have been at a networking event, a cocktail party? What do you do? And, people like they start to say what they do, and you can almost see like the other person's eyes, start to, look the other way. And they're thinking about like, oh my God, I have 3 things to do tomorrow. And how quickly can I get out of this? Because I don't really care what she does, but I asked. And
right. And now we're in
this. So I've been on a couple of your seminars. Thank you. And you spoke to Utopia, our networking group. Thank you for that. And you're really helping to solve that problem for people so that when they say, who they are and what they do, it becomes this like compelling, engaging conversation instead of all these boring niceties. So tell us a little bit more about that, please.
One of the things I'm really good at is reverse engineering a process. And so after spending a couple years being a comedian and people being intrigued by what is that really? What's the process of writing jokes? How do you do that? And I needed to sit down and kind of answer that question for myself and answer, why do I do certain things like create a tight 5, which, as you know, and some people might not, that just means a 5-minute set. But that's a really important set for you to hone and craft, because if you want to pitch yourself to bigger stages, to agents or managers, to late night shows, you have to be able to send them a really tight set that gives them an idea of who you are and what it is you talk about and what you're about. And when I realized that, I was like, that's what business owners need. They need a tight, entertaining way to tell people what they're about. And that question isn't answered on a resume, right? The resume teaches us where you've been, how you've spent your time, what your education is, what some of your specialties might be. But we hire humans. At the end of the day, there is a vibe that you feel with someone. And so this perfect pitch workshop is really about, if your business kind of got out of the way for a second and you started just explaining what you're interested in about what you do, instead of being so concerned with this person being like thinking you're interesting, walking away saying, oh, that was the most interesting woman I've ever talked to. You forget that. No one cares about that. That's just ego. They want to know, what are you interested in? And when we watch someone get lit up, when we watch someone get so nerded out about the thing that they're into, think about something other than your profession right now. If someone asked you to answer, what's the thing you geek out on? And then the energy in your body, the energy in your face, behind your voice, like the way you talk about it, that's how I want you to talk about your career. And that has nothing to do with knowing how the movie was made or how the dish that you love is made. Forget that. Tell me what it is that lights you up. And we just get really sometimes embarrassed to take up space. Sometimes we just don't know how to explain what we do because we spend so much time doing it. We don't spend a lot of time stepping back and doing that reverse engineering and looking at it from a million perspectives. And that's the muscle of being a comedian. So just kind of putting all of those pieces together, I was like, wait a minute. I think this could be actually really helpful for people.
There's something here.
There's something here. And this workshop, listen, I've designed a ton of workshops over this last decade. And this is truly some of my best work of just, it's clear, it's tangible. You walk away with something inside of 90 minutes. And if you commit to it and keep coming back to the work that I teach you, you're going to end up with a lot of content to talk about your business.
That's great. So I always like people when they listen to the show here that they could walk away with like something like, bam, I could do that like right now.
Yeah.
So let's go. I'm gonna pretend that we're at a cocktail party.
Okay.
And I'm meeting you, Jenn, with 2 N's. Jenn Lederer. Yeah.
You're already lucky.
I know. And I was like, wow, it's the best party ever. So blessed.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say, Jenn, so nice to meet you. What do you do?
Okay. So do you want me to give people a formula right now, or do you want me to answer that question as if we're just talking?
Why don't we do both? Why don't you give the formula first and then we'll give your example? How do you like that?
Okay. I like that because I do want people listening to actually be able to take this.
Yeah.
All right. So you got to meet people where they are. So when I answer that, the first thing out of my mouth is I'm a comedian and I'm a keynote speaker. These are 2 things that everyone has an idea what they are, what they do. I get on stage and I talk. Okay, great. You know that about me. Don't try to be too different right off the top because that can disconnect someone. And if we automatically go into a conversation feeling inferior, feeling like, oh, okay, I'm already lost, you've lost them. They're gone. And as a comedian, I can't lose an audience in my first 10 to 15 seconds. I have to make sure I have them. Yeah. So boom, clear, comedian, keynote speaker. Awesome. Then I'm going to talk to you about.
And I think, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think that's going to gain interest because like how many people say that? How many people say I'm a comedian, keynote speaker?
Sure.
Like,
I don't
how many?
Yeah.
They probably have never heard that combo.
David.
Well, I say I am a motivational comedian. How do you like that?
Okay. That's the title that I used when I first got into comedy because I was like, how is this branding going to work?
Yeah.
But I ended up dropping the motivational.
Yeah. But
I mean, listen, honestly, I don't know if I'm motivational for some people, so let's just drop that.
I am aspiring to be a motivational comedian, right?
There you go. Take what you want from my performance. How about that?
Yes, very good. Very good. No, but I like yours because, like you said, like everyone knows what a comedian is, and everybody knows what a keynote speaker is. You're putting those 2 together, and they're probably like, wow, it makes it a little more interesting, right?
Yeah, and it's also clear. It leaves you with curiosity, but it doesn't leave you with confusion.
Yeah.
And that's the important part.
Curiosity, not confusion. I like that.
Yep. So walk that line of being, different or having a way to catch someone's attention, but don't be too different.
Right.
And then be different as hell. Like that's the only portion of this formula that I'm going to tell you don't be different. And then the rest of it, differentiate yourself all over the board.
Yeah.
So the question, what do you do? I ignore the word what after that first point, comedian, keynote speaker. Then I go into how do I do that? If you want to know the business model, I can talk to you about my workshops and my one-on-one work and my consulting. If you want to figure out how does this woman live the life that she lives, what is the funding behind all of this?
What inheritance did she get, right?
listen, my brain, that's the inheritance that I got for sure.
I love it. That's the best one. That's the best thing you can get.
It is. And, the heart behind that is I'm not going to give my soul to the machine that is the entertainment industry. That's something that I saw close up as a talent manager. And that is a lot of what drives my business model is keeping the power in my hands. I decide how I make money and when I make money. And when I'm offered a stage, awesome. When I produce my own shows, even better. But I'm not waiting for the phone to ring in order for an opportunity to show up. I can't do that. I've watched the light go out in so many people waiting to do that. And I promised myself that wasn't going to be it when I come back to the stage.
Yeah,
so,
right.
And that what I just shared with you is maybe something that would come through when I'm at a networking event and someone asks me what I do. Like, that just felt like the right thing to say to you. And so that's what came out. I know my business really well. At this point, I have looked at it from every angle. So I can be really present with someone and just connect and let whatever comes out come out. It's not a script. Like, that's if you're taking anything from listening to me talk right now, don't try and write a script. Really take responsibility of understanding your business from as many perspectives and angles as you can, so that you can talk to someone like a human being.
Yeah. And you might have to customize it based on the person, right?
Absolutely. You should
Yeah.
customize it. I customize most of my sets based on the audience that's going to be in the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went and saw Melissa Etheridge last night, and she customized her set and the stories that she told on stage to Santa Fe.
Wow.
So it wasn't just, I'm here and I'm a rock star and you're going to appreciate what I give you. And we would have, by the way, that would have been enough. But she is even better than a rock star. And so she knows connection is the name of the game. This is why she is who she is.
That's why she's still performing, 30 years later, right? So
Correct. She cares about the
Yeah.
people that she's in front of, and you feel that.
Yeah.
You feel that. You want to invest in that.
Yeah. That's awesome. So
Mm-hmm.
very cool. So what else? What else do you do? What else do you do to is there more to the formula?
There's more to the formula. After you answer how you do what you do, which inside of that, if you ever take my workshop, we dive into what exactly that is. You go into why. And I shared a little bit of that in regards to why my business model is the way it is. My commitment is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, that's what I want to give everyone I work with. Not only the freedom to live the life you want to live, but the freedom to speak on the life that you live, to share the life that you live and what your business is, and take up space, especially the women. We sometimes get really comfortable with just giving the spotlight to someone else, answering the question as quickly as possible, and then asking it back to the other person so that they can shine. It's this practice of taking up space and slowing down. The speakers that really grab you, they are not in a hurry, right? Their energy is leaned back in their chair. At least the speakers that I can think of that I really enjoy hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Even the comedians that are faster, they're not fast because they're trying to get through it. They're fast because that's their style, and they're inviting you to keep up with them. And so they're still in the power. They're still setting the pace. Yeah. And maybe that's really what I'm saying, is learning to set the pace that you want and lead the conversation. Like, that's another huge why of mine. And so hopefully as you're listening to this, you're feeling my connection to my work. You're feeling how interested I am in what I do. I don't actually care if you think I'm interesting. Yeah. I want you to feel the way that I'm connected to my work.
Yeah. Well, my feeling is that I find you interesting right from the start, because you're doing it in such a different way. Right. Mm-hmm. Even your personal life. Right. I mean, mm-hmm. You're very, very open on your mm-hmm. social media, mm-hmm. business and personal. Mm-hmm. And for me, I love it, because I'm like, dude, she's got balls. I mean, you're just mm-hmm. doing it your own way. Yeah. And you're making a great living, obviously. But you're happy, you're joyous, because you have, what's that word? Freedom, right? When I met you last month, you were in Greece for like a month. Yeah. And I was salivating over every post. Mm-hmm. And now you're in Santa Fe. Yeah. And you can be wherever you want to be. And that's the freedom. And what I like about you too is, like, you obviously care about adding value, mm-hmm. but you also don't care if people are not jiving what you're doing, because mm-hmm. you're saying, I feel like you're saying to yourself, if you like who I am and what I'm doing, great. I'm here for you. I'm going to add a lot of value. If I'm not your cup of tea, well, that's okay too. Have a nice life.
Try a coffee. Enjoy yourself.
That's right. I like that. Have the coffee. Yeah. have a coffee and go after yourself. But
Exactly.
but to that type of like a person like me, like I love that. I love that you are who you are. You're doing what you want to do, to bring joy into your life and to have that ultimate goal of freedom, and adding incredible value to people's lives with the training and content and value that you're bringing people. So kudos to you. It's a long way. That's a long way of saying kudos to you.
I appreciate that. No, that means a lot. Mentorship has been at the heart of my life since 8th grade. I started talking to younger girls. And it's just been a part of me. Yeah. Since then.
Yeah. Were you mentoring them and then they would say like, oh my God, thank you, Jen. Now I know like that. I don't want to be like you. No, I'm just kidding.
Correct. Yes. I was basically saying, here's all the choices I'm making. Do the opposite.
Yeah. Here's what not to do.
Correct. How to get ahead in life. Opposite of me.
Just kidding. So you had a lot going on. I mean, 5 years old, you're going to move to New York, 8th grade, you're mentoring young women. I love it.
Yeah.
Very cool. So what else in the formula? What are we missing here?
All right, we got how, we got why, and then you speak on what's next. You kind of get, again, it's the muscle of taking up space. Get used to sharing your big vision. Get used to talking about where you're headed, where you aren't yet, because a lot of people are in that gap for you. A lot of the people that you're going to be meeting, unbeknownst to you, are these, characters that are being placed in your path to help you get to these areas or to cheer you on as you get to the next vision. And also, if you have to answer the question, what's next, you have to think about what's next, right? You have to have an idea, where am I going with all of this? What do I want to be doing with all of this? I want to be on the biggest stages in the world. I want to hold that energy. I want to hold thousands of people at a time. Watching Melissa last night, it just felt like a yes. I was like, yes, absolutely. I feel you. We are kindred. Like, I too will be doing this in my own way, through comedy. I'm not going to be a rock star in this lifetime. Although I will say every singer wants to be a comedian and every comedian wants to be a singer. We hang out together a lot. You see a lot of comedians with rock stars.
You always want what you don't have, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah.
But that to me, that's what I want. That's what I feel. And that's what scares me. Saying that is exciting, but thinking of embodying that, not only the energy of standing on those stages and being in front of those people, but the lifestyle that is required for that commitment. The tour schedule is no joke, right? So really understanding what it is you are asking for when you talk about your big vision. The practice of the 360, every perspective, every angle. Look at the stuff that's going to be hard and commit to that too. Find ways to get excited about that too, and find ways to ask for help around that stuff, right? Like looking for a tour manager is something that I would have to start doing and be serious about that and actually start asking for that. And people wouldn't know that I need that unless I say it.
Yeah.
And I won't say it until I mean it.
Right.
I didn't start telling people, oh, I'm going to get into comedy until I know I was meaning it. And I still said it for 2 years before I picked up the mic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But you talk yourself into it. You actually, not only from, the manifesting side of things, if you speak it into existence, but you convince yourself to do it after you say it enough. And you feel like, no, this is real. This is actually something.
I think it was Earl Nightingale, one of these, original motivational speakers, right? Said, you become what you think about. And I have to think that you also become what you talk about, right?
100%. And write about too.
Yeah.
Put pen to paper. That is energy.
Yeah.
That is energy.
Yeah. So you were saying you're a comedian even before you were an official comedian.
Yeah. I mean, it's been following me my whole life. When I look back on it, I'm like, oh God, this whole time it was there.
People have always been laughing at me. I've been a comedian forever, right?
Forever. And it still felt good. I knew they were laughing at me, not with me. I could still use this energy.
They're laughing near me right now.
I just like the sound of your laughter. I don't care what. And then to wrap up the formula, after those three things, which is the meat and potatoes of it, how, why, what's next, how, why, what's next, just keep thinking of those stories.
Yeah.
You make the ask, you make the connection, and it's not always a pitch.
Mm.
This is the last space of practicing taking up space. After someone says, what do you do? We try to get done with talking as fast as possible, and then we throw the hot potato back to them and say, what do you do? And what I'm encouraging you to do is find a way to connect with them on what you just said. Keep them in this conversation for a minute. Actually try to understand what about this is interesting to you. Like, what did you just get interested in based on what I'm interested in?
Yeah. So what is your ask?
I mean, my ask is what happens in your body when someone says, what do you do? Because the physiological response to that is going to tell you a lot about where you are to your relationship and talking to yourself. Does your chest tighten up? Do you lose your breath? Are there butterflies in your stomach? Do you literally feel like you're dissociating already and you're kind of leaving your body? Are you now in your head trying to remember, what do I do? Like, wait, who am I? Quick, which human is this? Like, that's what I want to know. What happens in your body? Do you have an answer to that?
As far as how I feel when I say what I do?
When someone asks you, like that space between the question and you starting to talk, what happens?
Yeah, well, I have been an ADHD serial manic entrepreneur myself. So, to your point, often I have to say like, oh, what am I doing this month? Right. But, so when people ask me that now, I've been saying that, I help people infuse humor into their sales strategies. And so I'm going into companies and working one-on-one with helping people. And then, they'll say, well, I'm not funny. I'm not. That's okay. I could give you some tactics to at least create some smiles. Right. And then they'll always say like, oh, can you share one? And I'll share with you if you don't mind. You want to hear it?
Yes, please.
This could be like this most stoic, boring, half dead person ever. Right. And they'll still get a smile if they do this. And this happens to all of us. So we're prospecting and we send an email to a prospect. They don't answer. Happens all the time, right? So what do? I take that email and I forward it, but now I'll put in a subject line, take two, with a little smiley face, right? So I'm going to get a little smile there, right? They still don't respond, right? So now I'm going to take that same email. I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to put take three, smiley face. So now the person might be like, well, that's cute, Dave. And they might respond. But if they still don't respond, what I'll do next is I will send a brand new email, and I have an image of that I've got from Google of all these crickets, and that is I put this image, in the email body, and that's all that's there. That's nothing else, just all these crickets, right? And I'll send that. Right. I'm telling you, I always get a response.
Yes.
They'll be like, all right, Dave, you got me. And they'll say, then they'll give me the truth. They're interested. They're not interested. But at least I get an answer, at least I get a response. and that's over email. And you could, like I said, you could be the most stoic, boring person ever, but you could do something like that. Right. Yep. So, and it always, and I say, humor in the workplace, it doesn't always have to be like hysterical laughing. It could be just smiles. It could be a leader that says, you know what? Remember those field trips we did in high school and junior high and elementary school? Well, we're going to do that again. We're going to take an annual field trip as a company, and we're going to go to the museum, and we're going to have lunch together, and we're going to take a bus there. And there's nothing really funny about that, but like that adds some great smiles into the workplace. Right. Yeah. So Jen, to answer your question, that's what I do. Right.
I love that. I got a lot from that. And I mean, and I didn't even ask you to tell me what you did. I asked you to tell me how you felt about being asked what you do. And you just flowed into it. Like you're clearly someone who is comfortable with this work. And I love that you're teaching people ultimately the art of connection, and that cricket thing is so funny and so connectable, I guess is the word, if that's a word, because it's just the truth. You're speaking on what is, which is always the funniest thing to do.
Yep. Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you for acknowledging my and liking my long-winded answer. At the end of the
Loved
day,
it.
I'm just really good at just over talking. So thank you for that.
I'm here for it. I'm a good listener.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So, Jenn, this has been super, super, super fantastic. I love every minute of it.
Me too.
You know, we've had 3 calls now, right? We got a call just to know each other, which I love, and then you spoke to my networking group Utopia, which all of us love that, and now this, and I was on your webinar yesterday. So like instant best friends, and I even gave you a LinkedIn recommendation, and where I meant it. Like you're the type of person, in my opinion, that that right away, like, oh my God, I love her, instant BFF if she's allowing that, I'm in. So you're one of these hell yeah type of people. Let's be friends forever. So thank you for who you are and being born and sharing heartbeats with us today. Very much appreciate it. Don't want to leave. I'm sure there's a lot of listeners and viewers saying, oh my God, I want more Jenn with 2 N's. How do I learn more about Jenn and get in touch with her?
JennLederer.com. Double N Jenn, LEDERER.com. That's where you can learn all about what I'm doing. I'm at Jenn Lederer on all of the social medias. So that's where you find me.
All right. Very cool. And anybody, I always say this, if you want a personal connection to Jenn, throw me an email, david@davidmamano.com, and I'll be happy to make a personal introduction. And I guarantee you won't regret it. Jenn, thank you again so much. I wish you'd continued massive success. I know you're in Santa Fe for about a month, and then where after that? New York, back to New York City?
Back to New York for a while. Yeah.
Very cool. If people want to come see you at a show, that's on your website too?
I would say Instagram is probably the best way to keep up with current shows, because sometimes I'm learning the day of. So
awesome. Well, I love it. I love it. All right. Pop up Jenn. I love it.
That's right. That's right.
Very cool. Well, thanks again, Jenn. I appreciate it.
Thank you, David.
And thank you, Gonzo family, for listening and or watching every Wednesday morning. Join us for new episodes. Please like us, love us, share us, whatever you can do for us. We totally appreciate it. Have a great day and make sure to stay awesome.